A message from the Roots and Narratives team. Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Surely we belong to Allah and to Him we shall return. This episode was pre-recorded before the passing away of Nebet's beloved father, Sayyid Saleh Al-Madani. As a team, we are deeply saddened by his loss, and we extend our heartfelt condolences to Nebet and her entire family during this difficult time. We kindly ask our viewers and listeners to keep him in your prayers and to read Surah Al-Fatiha in his memory. May Allah grant him mercy, forgive his sins, and bless him with the highest places in Jannah. From all of us at Roots and Narratives, thank you for your love, support and understanding during these difficult times.
Welcome to another episode with me, Naba Al-Madani.
And me, Rada Alwan, and welcome to Roots and Narratives. Today we have
Emily.
Garthwaite. She is a photographer,
an artist.
And
someone who's spent a lot of time in Iraq.
She's actually spent more time in Iraq than we have.
Yeah.
Plus some.
Yeah.
So what you've got to understand about Emily is that she has been following the Iraqi Arba'in for many years, but she's gone into so many other parts of Iraq that this story is going to be one to watch. So for all our followers, for all our viewers, it's so important that you like, share and subscribe for us to get as many followers, to get phenomenal guests like Emily to join us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming.
Wow, Emily, your work I've been following for a very long time, and you've been going to Iraq since 2017. Before we start going into that journey, let's just roll back the time. How was your earlier life?
Yeah, let's find out about you first.
My earlier life. So all of my family are from the Channel Islands in Jersey. And that's where I was born. And then my parents moved to Australia. So I then grew up in Sydney in my sort of early childhood years. And then around the age of 7, we moved to the UK. And that's where I spent all of my life until my 20s when I decided to move to Erbil. And I've been based between there and Istanbul ever since.
Wow, what a journey.
Yeah.
So England, Australia, England, Iraq, Erbil, Istanbul. Wow.
Well, I do come from, on both sides of my family, there's a lot of travellers.
Okay.
So I think it's probably in my blood to maybe not settle so much and still on the move permanently. But it really works for me. It's just how I feel most comfortable.
And did you get into photography at uni, or did you?
I've been taking photographs since I was 14 years old.
Really?
Yeah, it's quite unusual, I think, for a young person to sort of have a very clear calling. I think, friends of mine are still exploring their careers, and I've just always known what I wanted to do. So when I was 14, my mother got a camera for Christmas, and I was allowed to use it because there was a forest fire near our family home, which burnt down just over 3 miles of land.
Oh, wow.
And I was absolutely devastated. It was the destruction of all of the natural habitats that my father was a zookeeper and a conservationist. So we'd grown up around, reptiles and lizards, and I had snakes. And so that land was imbued with so much of my childhood. So my father let me go out with my mother's camera to photograph it behind the lines of the firefighters. And kind of bizarrely, at age 14, with no encouragement, I sent it to my local newspaper. So that was the first time I was published as a photojournalist. And that came from a very natural place. And I think a sense of something terrible has happened, and I'd like you to know that it mattered, and it's been lost now. And I think, reflecting on that in my character, I've continued focusing on stories just like that. So
it's amazing.
Yeah.
And so did you study? photography, or
I did a master's later,
Okay.
like later in life. But actually, I mean, I always feel like photography, photojournalism, it's a craft, and so
Nice.
apprenticeships are the way to, the way to go. So I started as a nightclub photographer. Back then, Facebook groups and Facebook albums were the way that we shared.
Yeah.
So everyone would wait for the Facebook albums to come
Or
out.
as in Iraqi we say face.
Yeah, the face. And so I worked at various nightclubs in London, which is a great place to learn photography, because you're dealing with lots of strangers coming in. You've got to be confident. People want you to get the best photograph of them enjoying themselves. And then during the daytime, I was assisting fashion photographers, lifestyle photographers. I worked with an interiors photographer, which was really fun, going into the super rich homes and all the
Wow.
extraordinary things inside. I've done just about every photography job. So I've been employed as a photographer for 17 years, and I'm 32. Yeah, so
Well done to
it's a long
you.
time.
So how did Iraq come about?
So I was in my early 20s, and I received an email. I was in France at the time, and the team who were based out of Tehran were planning to walk the Arba'in pilgrimage from a cultural perspective rather than a religious one. And they were looking for a photographer to be observed, experiencing it, photographing communities, speaking to them, understanding the message. They'd wanted to have an American photographer, but his visa was declined.
Okay.
And they had about 2 weeks to spare, and Farzan, who was funding the film, him and his friend found one of my photographs through a hashtag on Instagram, dropped me a message. I said yes, without thinking too much about it.
Did you know what the Arba'in was at the time?
Can you imagine receiving that email saying there's a pilgrimage, it's over 20 million people, happens in Iraq, and we'd love to invite you to walk it. I mean, I'm eternally curious, so it was the email reached the right person. There were a handful of conversations, obviously, with people in my life who were saying it's very dangerous, but it just didn't make sense, because obviously, if that many people are walking it, then it's completely plausible that I could too. And so I was there on a Ziyara visa within the 2 weeks, and then we spent 10 days or so there. That was my first trip in 2017, and it was just remarkable. Can you imagine? I'd never left, or I'd never been to the Middle East. Certainly had no experience visiting mosques or any understanding of how to wear a hijab. I remember I packed like a sheer scarf, which in hindsight was completely wrong. A sort of white sheer scarf. You know, I had no framework for how I should or shouldn't behave. And
were you not given guidelines or anything before you went?
no, because actually sometimes even I forget with friends if they're coming to visit, because you get it's so ingrained in you after a while. It's like until it happens, I go, oh, I need to remind you. But I think it was, I was so much forgiveness for every faux pas I made on that first trip, and I'm so grateful for that, because, you know, if someone's coming into a brand new space and culture, it's going to take some time to integrate. So I'm grateful for everyone that, you know, would gently whisper to me saying, you need to. And then
So, question.
Yeah.
Before that, did you have any exposure to Muslims, Arabs, Iraqis?
No,
The culture, the food.
No, none whatsoever. You know, my first experience, my first memory was I would have been, I'm not sure, maybe I would have been 11 years old. My mother picked me up from school, and we used to go via the corner shop to get sweets. And that, at the school, they used to sometimes put out newspapers, and they didn't put them out that day. And when I went to the corner shop, they had the newspapers on display, and it was the photograph from Abu Ghraib. And that was, and I remember the country name being beside that image, and feeling legitimate fear. I'd never seen an image like that. I never forgot that as a child. I knew that is not good, whatever's happened. So actually, that's my first memory of the country. So it's wonderful to be at this point where the country is really blossoming and going from strength to strength. And, I'm among my Iraqi peers who are just so insanely talented and driven as well. There's like people are hungry to kind of elevate the country as much as possible.
And then hijabis and Muslim people and Muslim females, were you exposed to anyone here in the UK? Because obviously we're reasonably multicultural here in the UK, especially in London. So did you have any exposure to...
No, I mean, I grew up in Surrey.
Yeah.
And then I went to school in Dorset. I mean, I wasn't exposed to any diversity in my upbringing.
Shell shock turning up in Baghdad?
Not at all. I was like, thank God. I felt cooped up. I was ready to see the world.
Oh, fantastic.
That's it. It's about, ultimately, it's about leading a life of curiosity, and that will take you all sorts of places. And that's what I would urge everyone to pursue, just a life of curiosity. It doesn't have to be kind of career focused. You don't have to be hard on yourself. Just lead with curiosity and see where it takes you. And, I hadn't expected to end up where I have ended up, but I've loved every moment.
So after that first trip, how long did you wait to go back?
Well, so back then, it wasn't that long ago, but the visa process was very complicated. The country's really opened up now. We've got visa on arrival, e-visas, but then you had to know someone, and you had to have wasta, and I hadn't developed any of that. So the embassy here had to develop relationships to try and come back later on. But back then I just waited to walk Arba'in again on the Ziyara visa. And that year, so when I came back from the pilgrimage in 2017, this is the end of the war in Mosul.
On that trip, sorry, just because I want to dive a little bit, you went viral on that, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. No, I didn't. I went viral in 2018. A lot of people didn't know I walked in 2017.
Okay.
Yeah. But on the return trip, it was very much fueled by a frustration of how people met me with when I was speaking about the country, because I'd be talking about deeply profound experiences, the rise of Islamophobia, how I felt very frustrated by the experience I'd had on the ground versus what I discovered when I would come home and what was in the media. So it really fueled a return trip, because I felt like...
How were you treated when
I came back? I had a lot of snide remarks.
Oh, okay.
I mean, they were nothing I would be interested to share here, certainly. But I had remarks that said to me, there's something terribly wrong going on, and there's a huge divide between on-the-ground reality versus what is being shared in the media. And we've seen that continuation. I do feel like things are changing now, which is very exciting. But then it felt, very, very potent time. And I think I was very angry about it. So
did that make you want to go back? Or did that say...
Yes, I would say at the very start of my career of covering the country, I was making work for people outside of the country.
Oh, I see. Okay.
That only lasted about 2 years. And then I thought, actually, that's not the purpose. I'm not trying to change your mind because you've already you've decided. It's about collaboration. And it's about listening to the community and actually supporting them. So the stories and the focus didn't really shift, but my mentality and agenda shifted. I realized it was wasted energy trying to convince that group of people who had already decided. So didn't
us Iraqis as well. I'm guessing there was quite a bit of suspicion about you and you going there as well. And I think there was. I think we've discussed off screen where people were suspicious of you. Why Iraq? Why now? Who are you? And why are you doing it?
What are you doing?
So there was that curiosity from the Iraqis, and obviously they've come from a very
brutal
regime. So they're very suspicious. How did that transpire with you?
Well, obviously, my family haven't been persecuted, and I'm British. I've lived a very, very sheltered life. I haven't had any of those experiences. So it did at first, obviously, feel jarring. But as the years have gone by, I've come to understand that sticking it out, remaining consistent, continuing to do my work, keeping my head down is the best way to soothe any of those suspicions. And, you know, if you have experienced persecution or you've lived under regimes and for many multiple times been displaced, you're going to be suspicious of anyone coming in, and it doesn't really matter what you're doing. So, you know, I have a lot of compassion and understanding for why people might feel that way.
Yeah.
It's only natural.
I think your work speaks for itself.
Yeah.
It truly
I
does.
hope so.
I mean, the photos that you've taken along the way.
It's touched me,
Yeah,
for sure.
100%.
Looking at your photos and your work, and I think you can sense the passion in your work as well. And it's just so heartwarming to see images that I've never seen, I've never been exposed to, you know. So thank you for that. That's absolutely amazing. Well done to you.
Especially us as diaspora, you know, we have this disconnect, and you've gone to certain areas that I've only heard of.
Yeah.
And to see the art form and the work that you've done, it has really opened up my mind. You know, sitting with families, taking photos, an older gentleman in the Ahwar area, just the boats, the canals, and it's just like, oh my God, I really want to see that. And it's been a true eye-opener.
It has, absolutely.
And I mean, a lot of Iraqis I've spoken to are like, have you seen that work? Have you seen that? And it's just, it goes, trends between us. And that's why I said, when, you know, you went viral, it's like, oh my God, it was just, it was phenomenal. It was great to see the experience that you had. And it was just like, I want to be there.
Well, yeah, I want to encourage people to go home and see their home. And I think, you know, spending time with Iraqi diaspora, for me, feels exactly the same as if I was in country. At the moment we saw each other, it's exactly the same experience, and I really pine for it when I'm outside of the country. Yeah, it became about home, and actually, because it became my home, that was the work that felt really important. And also, when you live somewhere, or at least it's very familiar, you get very used to like the everyday mundane. But of course, at the very beginning for me, I found some of the mundane the most miraculous. Little habits or rituals, or like how coffee was made, and so a lot of these pictures are mundane, but they feel sort of special because it shines a light on an otherwise normal activity. And I was very sort of defiant about showing Iraq in all of its shades, and obviously there have been and continue to be some very, very critical stories that need to be covered, and I have covered those stories, of course, but I'm much more deeply interested in the shades of grey and everyday life, to balance and maybe place more importance on those more critical stories, because we need to have that resting heartbeat. Where are we going from when we say there's an issue in this community that they're facing? We need to see what an everyday is like to show that critical story. You know, how do you make someone care about a country if all they've ever seen is that it's destroyed? So what's worth fighting for? And why would you advocate for something that's already lost? So I feel like I'm having to backtrack quite a lot in the work, and and trying to show that no, we're looking at what's survived, and an abundance has survived. We need to prioritize telling those stories, and then maybe we can start to go into the other ones.
I think one of the major stories that you've recently touched on, I don't know how recent it is, but you could probably clarify, is the Ahwar and how it's drying up.
Yeah.
It's quite interesting because when I started doing that work, we had a lot of predictions, and those years have gone by now. So, you know, we were said by 2024, it would recede by X amount. Don't have those facts with me right now, but what we've seen is it's actually more resilient than we had expected it to be. And obviously the joy of spending more time somewhere is you begin to see that I'm by no means saying it's improving, but it's not as bad as those predictions were. And it's very important to continue returning. I think the strength in the work is the return. And, you know, I'm returning to people regularly for stories. Sometimes they then become films. There are people who I am watching and sort of stay in touch with and thinking, I think this would be maybe a wonderful short film, or this could be a podcast, but you have to let time sort of play out. And certainly in the marshes, it's hard to sort of balance hope, but also showing the devastation. And I don't think that the cracked earth and broken boats imagery empowers people to support the cause. It can, you know, with climate storytelling, you can have a few of those images, but otherwise, you know, why would you be invested when it's already gone? And it's not. We do have a lot remaining, particularly in Chabayish. There are amazing organisations working on the ground that need our support. It's very, very hard to get funding into these causes. Very hard to get money into the country, into, you know, to the communities that need it most.
We had Rashad Salim.
So Rashad Salim is doing extraordinary work with his projects. You've also got Nature Iraq, which is a fabulous organisation. You've got Hamad Dijla, who are doing brilliant work internationally, actually. But on the ground, you've got environmental defenders who, you know, are making real steps. You know, I've got Bassam Al-Awaidi, who's in Mosul, who's looking at changing the constitution to include more environmental measures. So there's a lot of people that are together and united in this cause.
Oh, that's so lovely to hear, because we don't get exposed to all of this, I guess.
No,
because
absolutely.
you've been on the ground.
Yeah.
You've been exposed to all of this changes and
but
growth.
Iraq isn't included in these conversations. You know, we look at COP. Where's Iraq? We look at the global climate movement. They're not included, and it's essential. You know, Iraq is one of the most vulnerable countries in the world to climate change. There's a lot of areas, particularly in the south of Iraq, that have already been lost to climate change, and we never even knew the names of the villages. It's already happened. So, you know, Iraq is ready to be part of that conversation, but it also needs the invitation. And I'm really hoping over the next few years that we'll see these incredible change makers, you know, with a seat at the table, because they should be there. You know, it's an extraordinary country that deserves a lot more attention, particularly in climate change.
Yeah, I think what it is that Iraq's had a lot of bad press over many years, and they've been excluded. I mean, I remember a conversation in my early years when I was deciding to what career I wanted to become, and at the time I wanted to become aeronautical engineer, and I got told by an Iraqi aeronautical engineer, he's like, if you become an aeronautical engineer as an Iraqi, they will not let you in the room when they're talking about how they created the engines because you're Iraqi.
Oh, wow.
And this is going back in the 80s. And I was like, oh, wow, so maybe that's not the right thing for me. But I mean, luckily we've seen people like Mohammed Taha, who's the airport guy, who's broken that barrier and he's done his great work. And he got told the same thing when he first started, but he was defiant and moved on. And it's good to see that people are now being defiant, moving on, and it's putting Iraq on the map. And that's why we've created this.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, created this podcast is to show Iraqis are moving. You know, we are, like I said in the past, I've always said it, and I've said it time and time again, all the podcasts, we are sons of Babylon. You know, time was created by us, maths was done by us, you know, writing was first done in Iraq, you know, and it's sort of something to be truly proud of. And just hearing somebody else on the other side of the table that's gone out to Iraq, who's been in Iraq more than we have, to see what Iraqis are doing and how they're, in the last 5 years, they've done leaps.
I know, what an incredible period of time. I mean, there's so much more to achieve, but it really, really feels like, you know, there's been just the rise in tourism as well. So many more visitors.
Yes,
and the narrative changing slightly.
Yeah.
You know, I'm seeing the YouTubers are not able to do the same sort of hero's journey of the high-risk country. It's now becoming just, you know,
the tourist country.
Yeah, you know, it's much more about we're in Mesopotamia. So that previously, a lot of those narratives were I survived Iraq, and now it's saying I'm in that, you know, Mesopotamia and I'm in Babylon. I'm exploring this, you know, extraordinary rich culture and heritage. So it's a relief, because I used to have a real grumble about a lot of the stuff.
Can I ask you, as a child, Did you know about Mesopotamia? Did you know about
No.
Babylon? Did you know about
No.
Assyria? Any of the like ancient history?
But here is one very bizarre thing. I got a art scholarship to a school in Dorset. It was owned by a man called Henry Layard before it became a school, and he was made an MP. Importantly, he went off to Iraq and he looted the whole country. So a lot of the stuff you see in the British Museum is because of Henry Layard. And actually, in the site of Ashur in Shagat, the hole that was bored into the side of that ziggurat was by Henry Layard. And back in 2021, I did a source to sea journey with a team of environmentalists down the Tigris River. And everywhere we went, we encountered the ghosts of Henry Layard and colonialism. And when I was at that school, they had a replica of an Assyrian frieze until one day a parent came round and said, he was an archaeologist, and said, this is not a replica, this is the real thing. And it's sold at Christie's for, millions and millions. So it turned out it was at the school the whole time. And so, a lot of the time when we're talking about the history of the country, it comes under many different names. We had an Assyrian society at school. It was a debating society or something. And I was surrounded by Assyrian antiquities, but it was never ever named, as being Iraqi antiquities. And certainly they were never described as being looted. They were sort of rescued, or however it's been reframed in the UK when it comes to the preservation of antiquities. So that is my first experience, and I went back to the school last year when I was driving down to see a friend in Devon, and I went to where I walk past it every single day. I went to where that frieze used to be, and the Layards they'd built. He basically had too many antiquities, and the British Museum couldn't accept them all. And so this family who took the house, they accepted his antiquities, and they built a custom building just to house them. So they used to have 2 lamassu.
Did they?
And the ones
Genuine lamassus.
Genuine lamassus, the ones that I believe are now in the British Museum, those ones that you can see in the entrance. So you can see where they used to be. And then they had the doors were, and still are, these sort of gated doors that they custom made, which were lamassu. And that was there the whole time that I was at school. And I had no context for what that was until I started.
Can I ask you, and you don't have to answer, but why do you think that is? Why do you think that was never, that history was never on the map here in the UK?
With the history of colonialism?
No, we know why that is. No, I mean Mesopotamia.
The education system is very, very reductive and deeply uninteresting, and should include the British Empire, which in itself is fascinating, but also should be including other empires, not just the Romans. So for us, it was always that was the education system. I believe it's still the same.
Yeah, Roman, Greek, Egyptian, and it stops there, I think.
I think it, I'm not entirely sure, other than the obvious. It's just, it doesn't fit the narrative, because I'm not sure.
How, if you look back at young Emily, how fascinated do you think she'd be learning this history at school?
I would have been so fascinated.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, I would have been absolutely fascinated. And would have generated probably a much earlier interest. I mean, ultimately, I found my way to the Middle East and have had the opportunity to visit all these extraordinary archaeological sites and actually go with archaeologists. The beauty of being a photojournalist is that you get to go with specialists and you get to interview, all of the top specialists or advisors, or people who've dedicated their lives to a certain subject matter. My curiosity will allow me to do that.
I was very blessed to meet an archaeologist who's worked in Iraq, done a project out there for 4 years. He goes, we only dug 1.8 meters to find historical clay pots about 5,000 years old. That was, he goes, we're only touching the surface with what we found. He goes, just so that you know, and I didn't know this myself, but he goes, 90% of archaeological sites in Iraq have yet to be touched.
Yeah.
So the question I asked was, how old is history in Iraq? He just turned around, he goes to me, it's older than history itself.
Yeah, and I've had the, when I've had the time and I've just taken my car and gone for a drive and gone to some incredible sites. Oh gosh, what was the name of this one? It's 14,000 years old, first agricultural site near Sully. I've forgotten the name. Chamchamal. So that was really hard.
Can you pronounce that?
It's called Chamchamal.
Okay.
And yeah, this is in Jericho, you also have a 14,000-year-old site where grain was found and cultivation.
Yep.
But also but it's never been properly excavated.
Okay.
But yeah, if you go there, 14,000 years old. And not just that, they found that they were trading, because there's objects they found at that site which came from the Caspian Sea. It was saying that people were traveling, and there's a village there which lives just beside it, and of course when the rains come it reveals all of these treasures. And I remember going to the village and saying, what do you do when you find these treasures? And they say, we call up this man, he's really interested in them. I went, oh, okay. Where do I find this? Where do I find
Where
this?
do I find this man?
Where do I find this man? And there's been a lot of, wild goose chases that I've done in the country. And so I remember they go into the town and ask for his name. And I thought, okay, the first people I'll go to will be the metalworks, because they always know everything. Go to the metalworks and ask this guy's name. And they said, which house? I thought, this guy's made a killing. So I remember, we went down to one of his houses, which it turned out he died, I think, a few months. I think I just missed meeting him. He died a few months prior.
Okay.
But one of the houses, he turned into a public museum, which contained all of these incredible objects, Sumerian dolls, beads, and cuneiform tablets, to handcrafted tools, and it was the history of the world was there.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's a lot of individuals who do a lot to preserve antiquities. And I know someone who, under ISIS buried a lot of antiquities, and a lot of people who have been too afraid to give them to the likes of the British Museum. They've protected them until the museums were ready to receive these antiquities again. Yeah.
And I think Iraq is now rebuilding them. I know they're upgrading their museums, and because we've had a conversation, and they are doing quite a lot of work as part of the cultural ministry, I think.
Yeah. And so did you take photos of all of these findings?
No, a lot of the times I don't, obviously.
Are you not allowed because of them?
Yeah, and also you don't want to bring too much attention to people having, obviously the local museums I photograph.
Okay.
And have been out with archaeologists on sites, but a lot of them have got press restrictions. So they'll know that they found something, but they won't tell the press, or they won't tell everyone for 6 months until they've finished
Verifying and checking.
So there's been lots of wonderful moments where I've got to go and see without a camera. Literally everything's taken away. You go and see what they've discovered, and then you wait for that press launch to come out.
But doesn't that make you like, I want to take a photo?
Yeah, it's just, as a country, it's just the idea that not only you can build up, you can also dig down. You can't do that in many other countries. So I find that deeply exciting and kind of thrilling, and there needs to be a lot more protections obviously in place. Looting is a huge issue. There's a lot of rogue treasure hunters. We've seen the same in Syria, where the wealth of the country is sold out of Facebook Marketplace and things. And that's why I really, really want to see sites like Ashur particularly, and all of the sites around it, getting the attention they deserve, and getting the funding and support. And the tourists want to visit these sites, and you know, a lot of these sites haven't even been excavated. You know, the interest is there. We'd love to see it, and it just needs more international support and the likes of UNESCO to drop some of these high risk restraints. So, you know, a lot of like the likes of UNESCO won't work in certain areas because they deem it too dangerous. But we need to obviously change that.
Change the narrative. From your point of view, because you've been out there, how risky is Iraq?
It depends where you go. It's the same if you go to London at 3 a.m. and go to a corner.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you want to go and wander out into the desert in a Toyota Hilux, you might encounter some issues, but so would anyone. The point is that the country is very, very stable. I feel very safe. You know, the biggest risk will be driving. You know, the roads can be dangerous, but that's the same with many countries. Find it to be incredibly hospitable. If you break down, if you have any problems, you will be inundated with help. I cannot say the same for the UK. You know, for me, experiencing that level of hospitality, that has become part of my life now. Where I believe in it profoundly, of having an open door policy, to fight to pay the bill by any means. And a lot of these cultural practices, which, you know, are much more community focused, whilst, you know, a lot of friends talk about coming to the UK and feeling kind of on their own. You know, you can't just pick up conversation with someone. You certainly won't find yourself being invited for lunch by simply having a conversation. And that's not simply for being a foreigner. You know, it doesn't really matter who you are. There is this open door policy. So, you know, there are areas which we would call like hot zones, but they are areas that are militarized and you can't go there anywhere. So even if you tried to...
Even if you're Iraqi, you couldn't go there.
And when none of us are particularly interested to go to those places anyway, there's lots of other places to go to. So obviously if we only focus on that, we could define it as being dangerous, but that makes up, you know, a very, very small percentage of the country. I urge people to visit, to explore, and to be overwhelmed by hospitality.
Hospitality, that must have been an eye-opener for you.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit more about that.
Oh my gosh, I made so many errors. Complimenting people on what they're wearing and then receiving the item and then not understanding that you're going, oh God, I you know, should say no, and the sort of the tar-off exchange. And, you know, so now I say, do not give it to me, but I love your jewellery. Don't give it to me. So I've had to learn.
Such a typical Iraqi thing. Oh, that's a nice bracelet. Oh, hey, have it.
Have
it. And I you have to have it. You can't not take it. And and I get insulted if you don't take it.
Yeah, and fighting to pay the bill.
We have that problem.
We have that
but
problem.
it's fun. If you pay, you've won.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no greater joy than being able to do that. And I remember, you know, certainly when I've come back to the UK for the summer, and I've behaved like that, but of course no one in the UK fights to pay the bill, so I'm just sort of broke at the end of the summer thinking, you know, I've got friends who'll split a coffee together. They'll say, should we go halves? And I'm thinking, gosh. So that's something I would absolutely love to change in this country, because it is
Good luck.
It is weird. I mean,
what was the strangest thing of hospitality that somebody gave you? I just have funniness more than anything else.
Oh my gosh, I've received all sorts. Well,
the thing that you treasure the most, maybe.
So honestly, I don't accept gifts, normally because I'm working in a journalist capacity.
Okay.
So that's something that I'm very strict about. And also, it can be quite overwhelming what people offer. So I could tell you things people offer me.
Okay.
From jewellery to the beautiful Nowruz dresses that Kurdish women wear, hand embroidered, to watches, to stamps, to old memorabilia, gorgeous books. I mean, but I've never accepted it. Don't actually think I've got anything, if I'm absolutely honest. I sort of just made it like a rule, actually. And nowadays people don't offer me things because I think that's just not really I'm not really a visitor anymore. But things that I have like invested in is there's a wonderful artist in Mosul who makes cuneiform tablets, and you can make custom ones.
Really?
So I've made that for people I love, whether it's in Sumerian, and I write letters. You can he'll translate it.
Oh wow!
English to Sumerian. Yeah, really supported that. There's a lot of artisans in the country who I've really invested in, and I collect art by Iraqi painters. There's a wonderful Moslawi artist. There's a gallery in Mosul which has a fabulous collection. So, yeah, myself and actually my colleague Jane Araf. She's probably the biggest collector I know of Iraqi art.
Wow.
Yeah, so my favourite painting, and now I've forgotten the artist, but I'll send you a picture of it. It's got these wonderful pigeons flying and a sarifa in the back, and it must be in the marshes, and it glows. Yeah, yeah. So that's been more of a priority.
Wow, that's beautiful.
You've been on multiple other projects as well that you've photoed.
Tell us a bit more.
Tell us more about the
other
other projects. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm very, very interested in cultural heritage.
Of course.
And when I first started working in the country, I would be pitching stories about, maybe music or cultural programs, and editors wouldn't commission it because they were very concerned about security. If you imagine a journalist proposing those sorts of stories, and it was only a matter of months after the war had ended in Mosul, it just, people couldn't get their heads around it.
Okay.
So it took a very long time to garner any interest in these sorts of stories. I think the first one which really felt like making progress was a story about the Baghdad to Basra train line.
Okay.
Which was a wonderful story. We did that back in, maybe it was 2019. And that was where I really felt like we were starting to get these stories commissioned. The Kukia, you have to remember, obviously, in Iraq, there's this wonderful sense of humour.
Yeah.
Incredibly dark sense of humour, playful sense of ridiculousness. But also, I've had so much just fun with a lot of the habits and cultural practices. So, for example, if you take, and I urge everyone to do it, take the Baghdad to Basra or vice versa train journey, they have a camel spotter on the train.
Huh?
It's wonderful. Yeah.
A camel spotter.
Because the train only runs at night.
Okay.
And the train tracks, you're going through a lot of date palm jungle, but you're going through open farmland and you're going through desert parts. So they have a guy whose sole focus is to look out for camels. But then there's also this sort of bizarre and wonderful ticketing system where someone has a sort of bamboo stick that they hold out the train, and then they hand over to another one who's on the tracks, who's got the information about what's ahead, whether the tracks are clear. So, it was just the most brilliant assignment, because we managed to get to the front of the train.
Okay.
All of the, obviously the front of the train, you've got all the buttons and all the tech. Right beside it is a kettle that's just bubbling with water. Tea everywhere, spilling out over the buttons. Cigarettes flying everywhere. And I was just in heaven with this story. I thought, this is why I love the country. And you can either have a seated one, or you can go into compartments, which have got 4 beds. And in each compartment was the story of the country. You had guys who had been coming from central Iraq, who'd been serving in the military, who were coming to see their family in Basra. Then the woman who was in the compartment on the other side, she was there to get her husband's death records with her children, and he'd been killed by ISIS. And then down you had a load of boys who were playing music, who had their hair Habibi style gelled to the ceiling, and it for me it was that complete delight in saying, this is what I want to be doing these stories about the country. So I think having a sense.
How long is that train ride? I don't even know.
It leaves at 8 p.m. and arrives at like 4:30 a.m. So I've spat out in Basra going and trying, and I think every single time I've hitchhiked a lift to the river, people go, we don't even know why we're up at this time either. So yeah, it's a must it's a must experience, I think, and I'm hoping that one day they'll open up that train line from Istanbul again. And I mean, how amazing would that be?
That'd be fantastic.
It'd just be extraordinary. And there are discussions about it. But yeah, these were the stories having some humour, you know, and there's so much weight in the country. And there's been so much trauma, but people really have a sense of humour. And they've taught me to laugh at some of the hardest of things. You know, there's definitely a mentality in the country of laugh or cry. And really, when people cry, they do it properly. And when people laugh, it's full body laugh. So I've had the happiest and probably the saddest times of my life in the country. But these stories really keep me buoyed, keep me focused, keep me positive. It's about seeking these moments of just like radical positivity and joy. So I started with the train story. I've done stories about, done expeditions, which should be very important down the Tigris River, which have been incredible experiences. Decided to do that twice, which is a bit over the top, I think. Not really sure. But it was wonderful to then have it a second time and to have a bit more time. What other stories have I done? Stories about Yazidis, which has been wonderful. I used to live in Acre, which was only an hour from the site of Lalish. So, you know, when you live somewhere, obviously you get to spend a lot more
time.
Yeah, time. You need time. You can't just turn up somewhere. You have to develop relationships with people. Then you can make the really good work. At least we hope. And obviously walking Arba'in, I was there for Ashura for the third time.
Okay.
So I didn't actually walk the pilgrimage, but I was in Karbala for that period, which was
Ashura is completely different to Arba'in.
Yeah, and it's a time of immense grief and like, you know, it's a pretty remarkable experience, especially as, you know, I'm not Muslim, so being in sites of intense faith are palpable for anyone. You know, I think that's what's most profound about the sites of you know, Najaf and Karbala and Samara is, like, you know, it's accessible to anyone to kind of experience these the beauty of faith, you know, in collective consciousness, because that's what it is. And it's been very interesting to meet more and more people who have walked the pilgrimage or at least visited these sites. Yeah.
Amazing. And so what are you working on now?
So at the moment we've just finished editing the second film from Gayara, which is about a young man called Khalid who's an environmental defender, and his father is the Sufi sheikh in the town, and so it's a father and son story. It's a story of recognizing that once the issues were Al-Qaeda, they were ISIS, they were regime. Today it's very, very different. It's the environment, it's climate change, and it's militias. And so it's really looking at the relationship between those two, communicating that shift, and what can we do as a community? How can we rise to this challenge? And I've known Khalid for many years. I've watched him grow up. We have like a very funny relationship together because he's very conservative. Okay. And I'm the first woman that he spent time with that isn't a family member. Okay. And we bicker like siblings. And I delight in you know, in being able to show him the country because he'd never left his town before. So we've done 2 road trips outside of the country. So he's got to see it all for the first time, and then recently the second time, and we've had a wonderful grant funding from the EU to environmental storytelling, and so that will be coming out later this year in the autumn. And actually I've been doing a lot more work in Syria, you know, which is for me, having arrived in Iraq in 2017, it's got that same feeling of potential on steady ground, but a sense of we have to move forward. And so, you know, I feel like those two experiences simultaneously, especially as I'm always popping back to Iraq, it's been encouraging for me. I'm just hoping that Syria will will improve and find that same strength that I've seen Iraq find, at this point in history.
So is Iraq bracketed at the moment because of the project that you have in Syria?
Well, no, I've got like a bigger project which starts in the autumn.
Okay.
Back
in
in
Iraq.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I'm just, which I haven't like spoken to anyone
So we're
about.
going to be there.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll tell you afterwards. But, yeah, so that one is much more countrywide and looks at like a much larger scale project, because I feel like after the Tigris, I took up a lot of energy, and I just needed a little pause, and just to kind of redirect my focus. And I think, for me, it's I've basically been to every single part of the country. Wow. And I've had the privilege of covering...
Not envious, right?
No, yeah, tell me about it.
It's absolutely extraordinary, and to work on every story that I could ever have hoped to work on. I
think when we go to Iraq, we need Emily to show us around.
She's going to be our tour guide.
Tour guide, yeah.
Don't tell anyone.
I genuinely would love to do that. I often thought about doing like a tour. We're doing like one tour, but yeah, for it to be a very, we were speaking earlier saying I'm trying to get my family to do like a whole family road trip.
Be amazing.
But there's a lot of places that are not on the tourist map, which I just think are so fascinating.
I have to ask a question.
Yeah.
Do you drive in Iraq?
Yes.
You drive in Iraq?
Yes.
How?
Well, yeah, all of my mates tell me I'm a terrible driver. Shout out to Awad. But I just think that I think I'm a decent driver.
You can deal with the traffic. And
yeah, Sangar would my colleague Sangar, who I work with mostly, he would pick me up as a driver. No, I've driven most of the country.
Baghdad?
Yeah.
You drive in Baghdad?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not that difficult.
Do you know what? Traffic's so slow. You can't even
true.
you can't barely get past 20 miles per hour. No, I mean the highways, between Baghdad and Basra. I mean, I've driven all of those.
Well done to you.
Yeah, but also, we're all a team, and people get tired, and I mean, I'm still like the last resort. But yeah, I do drive in the country.
Well done.
Yeah, because I mean, I plan to, at one point, whenever I'm visiting next, I want to go get myself an Iraqi driver's license.
Oh yeah.
I've been told it's an interesting experience.
I know a few mates who've done it.
Oh, you haven't done it?
I've got the British,
International?
I've got an international driving license, but I've got mates who've gone to go and get their driving license.
Yeah, so I've been told it's an interesting experience.
But you have to go to your hometown to get it.
Yes.
So where would you be going to?
Yeah. So I've been told Baghdad is really interesting. So I was like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna go out there just to do it. I've driven there with my international license, and I've enjoyed it. You fit in. It's like driving in Paris. I mean, Paris is a scary place to drive, but Baghdad is a lot more easier. I've driven in Egypt. It's but Iraq is still easier.
I find it's my driving style.
Yeah, it works.
It works for me. Trouble is often when I come back here, I still
fall in that.
Yeah.
Do you remember the seatbelt?
Yeah, had a few middle fingers for other drivers and gone, okay, no, I need to be more kind of English style here.
There is 2 lanes, not 4.
Yeah, I know. I am a real. I'll float between lanes. And, but you just got to go with the flow. And to be honest, until there are more trains and there's better public transport, you can't really do anything without a car.
But the thing is, driving is improving in Iraq. There is more speeding cameras there. There are more traffic stuff, and
so they just bill you more. Yeah, it's literally going into one person's pocket. It's just like one speeding camera. Probably the person sitting there. Yeah, I mean now that the bureaucracy is about the only thing that will drive me to levels of insanity. The bureaucracy is extraordinary, and the new speeding cameras. Yeah. This is a real issue for all of us.
I mean, I was told by one of my friends, he goes, he got a fine because he had his phone in his hand. This was in Iraq. And I was like, I think they're just introducing it here in the UK. He goes, yeah, we've already got it in Iraq. He's like, seatbelts, phone usage, eating, drinking. You know, you get bills for that in Iraq because the camera takes a picture of every single car, and then afterwards they filter.
Really?
You're getting you're
Gosh, I
getting a
need to
fine for
remember
this. You're getting a fine for this.
Yeah, when I go back, there'll be
A list.
Yeah.
and it's related to the registration of the vehicle.
They are very creative. They've got this thing, right? They put in the buckle of a seatbelt, right? So the car stops beeping, and nobody wears a seatbelt. But they've managed to find something that's going to stop.
No, it's the buckle. They've cut it off a used car and they've just put it into the clicker.
Yeah, you just clip it in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
very creative.
You pick up an uncle and he's not putting that seatbelt on in the front seat, and it's just like ping, ping, the whole way. I don't know. They obviously can't hear it.
No,
but I'm sort of like losing my mind in the back seat. Yeah, so maybe I need to like just buy a little travel in my bag with a clip, with like a buckle clip, and just like slot them in.
Food in Iraq.
Tell us. Oh, please don't say you're vegan.
No,
Oh, okay.
I eat everything, apart from pacha.
Fair enough.
And I've never ever been into liver.
Okay.
So
Understandable.
It's
No,
just
no.
Just the two things I can't
Respect.
eat either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Have you tried pacha though?
yes, I have.
Okay.
I just think about it too much.
Okay.
If you start thinking about it,
Yeah.
That's very true.
Yeah.
I do that.
and then it's the same. It's the same for me with oysters and haggis.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll start. You just need to enjoy it, eat it, and then it's delicious. But once it gets into my brain of what I'm eating, then I get nervous.
Are you cooking Iraqi yet?
Yeah, I can cook dolma
Oh.
and kubba, but it takes a long time. I just find that to be a really, that's a long process. I'm still not
Kubba's
very
hard
yeah.
work.
And also with the pressure cookers, because everyone's sort of saying to me, if you get it wrong, it could explode and you could kill yourself.
Yeah.
Everyone's always reminding me of this sort of. When I put the pressure cooker on, I'm thinking, will this be the last time?
Is there enough water? Is it going to
yeah,
blow?
Yeah. And I've got better at, I'm better at helping as well.
Okay.
The only thing I haven't got down is rice, which all of my friends can attest to.
What do you do? Soggy?
Yeah, I just always get it wrong. So I still haven't got that down. And I can do grills.
Okay.
But I come from a family where we buy meat that's been aged for 30 plus days,
Mm-hmm.
So in Iraq, I like to do like a little marinade or something. We like to do like riversides, barbecues.
Mazgoof?
Yeah, mazgoof and what other things? I've never ever cooked mazgoof because you need the full
Oh no, yeah, you don't. Yeah, not
set
here.
up,
You can't, yeah.
ring of fire.
Yeah.
No, I think my favorite would be more of like a sour dolma.
Okay.
But then I also really
With a bit
love
of, pomegranate.
yeah, with the molasses. And then I've now forgotten, and it's my favorite during the winter months. You would have the dry bread.
باقي الأبيض or شوندر?
No.
Tashrib?
Tashrib. Oh, that's my favorite. Chicken. Tashrib.
Honestly, it's a winter thing.
It's a winter thing, and I love it so much. Like if I go to a friend's house and that's what they've cooked, I instantly feel like,
Home cooked food.
yeah. I remember once we were traveling during Ramadan, and and I had the military with me, and every town or village we went to, one of the guys was from, and so we were getting to have lunch because we were traveling, and we were having like lunch and iftar. And it was just incredible, and it was like tashrib at lunch and dolma. It was the best Ramadan ever because I was traveling for the whole thing, and of course the group, everyone that we were with, was also traveling, so we were cooking as we went. But yeah, I've had my fair share of incredible meals. The best food you're going to get is in people's homes, so for any tourists visiting, it can be quite tough finding that sort of food because there's no demand for it in restaurants because you just have it at home.
You're not going to have kubba in a restaurant in
Yeah.
Iraq. It's a home cooked food. It's a lot of hard work, but it's so rewarding.
Yeah, so that can be the frustration, is I'm always looking for the home cooked food when I'm traveling, and that can be harder. But there's some really fantastic restaurants that are kind of keeping those traditions alive in Baghdad.
Favorite meal?
My favorite meal, if I'm traveling, and it's cooler months, Tashrib. But no, it's always like all of my friends know as dolma.
Dolma.
Like if I go to their parents' house, that's what comes out. Yeah.
So have you had bagel dihin?
Yes, which is delicious. The only things that I can't have anything with like milk or cream.
Okay.
So no kahi gamar.
Yeah.
So you haven't had gamar?
I can't.
Oh,
Yeah.
no.
I mean, I look at it and it looks delicious with honey and bread in the morning, but yeah, I haven't.
And a bit of dates molasses.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
Dibis.
Dibsarashi is my kind of like survival on the road. Yeah. And actually, my friend Sangha and I have taken to buying lettuces on the highway and just having a whole lettuce in the car, which we always laugh doing it because it's like, you know, you need that kind of sustenance, and we just would wash them on the highway and then we'll just eat like a whole lettuce.
That is brilliant.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's fantastic. What is, going back to your earlier time, if you think back now and you go back to Emily 2017,
Yeah.
what advice would you give her about Iraq?
Gosh, I'd never considered. I don't think there's any advice because you've just sort of got to go through the motions. So there are lots of mistakes that I made.
They're not mistakes.
They're not mistakes, but like
lessons,
lots of lessons that I made. So there's not fully knowing the political sensitivities, you know, and all of the dynamics that are at play. Sometimes you can share a photograph and you don't necessarily know what's going on in that image. There's a lot of subtle things, colours that are worn, what those mean, what that flag means, what that gesture represents. So it can be incredibly hard at the beginning to navigate. So I would say to forgive yourself for you didn't mean to confuse people. And one thing that I've been really leading with this year, which I would say to her, is fearlessness, which is why I'm here today, because I decided this year to rid myself of any fear, and which also means ridding yourself of any shame or concern or how people might perceive you or judge you. It's taken me a long time to get to that point, and whilst I had the curiosity, then I had a lot of fear, and actually we've just got to live our lives without fear and really give it a go. So that's probably what I would say to her. And what else would I think she's done great.
Yes, she has.
No notes.
Really
Absolutely.
has.
Just go
What
for it.
was your favourite Arba'een experience? Because you've been on quite a few of those.
So there's the first experience of, I love Hilla. And it's got these beautiful pathways, which I would urge everyone to walk when you walk Arba'een. So obviously you've got the highway of love, you've got the main road. But if you want to get off the road, you can take a little diversion and you go along the Furat, and it's just beautiful. So that was the first time of seeing the countryside. I've never forgotten that. You know, those gorgeous sandy tracks, you know, syrupy river, all the date palms, and you know, just children running between the date palms and playing in the river. I mean, it was just heaven, you know, it's Edenic. This is the Garden of Eden. And then later on, I mean, I've had incredibly profound experiences in the shrines. Always had a particular fondness for Imam Ali's shrine. I think I've always really, really enjoyed spending time in Najaf and find a great deal of peace, and there's definitely a bit more space for conversation in the shrines, because in Karbala there's a lot more weight and raw emotion, but I sort of find when people go to Imam Ali's shrine there, they often are just in a state of like tranquility and peace. People sleep there. You know, you go in and you actually find people just kind of resting. It's an anticipation perhaps of what is to come. So I've always liked spending my time there, especially outside of like, you know, specific religious dates. So you've got a bit of like calm. And other experiences, I mean, I've had some remarkable stories. But for me personally, I remember having one evening with my friend Farzan in 2018, sitting on one of the canals, and we were by one of the mokabs. And obviously when you walk the pilgrimage, you split up. And we sat there and we just had the most honest conversation about our differences. We decided to talk about them and just recognize that we are very, very different people. He's deeply religious and Shia, and obviously I'm not Muslim. But yeah, we were there together with very big age difference. He's got a wonderful wife and children, and I was in my early 20s with a real dream of what I would want to achieve, not knowing I would move to the country. And I remember that being an incredibly formative moment of acceptance between the two of us, that despite these differences, we were friends, and that was what kind of mattered. So yeah, that was my introduction to I guess hopefulness. Yeah,
that's beautiful. Wow. Oh, where do we go from there?
Wow. I'm partly jealous.
You don't need to be at all. You know, I've had very difficult times as well.
Yeah.
I can speak to all of these moments, but you know that in the country it comes with a whole host of different challenges.
Oh, definitely.
Of course.
But of course, it's those ones that keep me buoyed and keep me focused.
Motivated, I'm guessing, as well.
Yeah, and it's been relentlessly optimistic, sometimes to a fault, and I think I can't seem to shake that. So.
I wouldn't ask you for the best city in Iraq because it's not fair.
I'll get in so much trouble.
And then you'll probably get into trouble, and I'll probably get into trouble.
I can speak to each one for different parts, though. Okay. So we'll start with I lived in Erbil.
Okay.
I absolutely loved living in the Kurdistan region of Iraq. And if I had more time, I would have loved to have lived in Suleimania as well, because it's a bit more of a community feel, less like city. But the city I photographed the most is Mosul.
Okay.
Now, you know, my best friend Sanga is from Mosul, but I've also worked on films there. This is a city which I'm rooting for. You have to remember, out of all those cities, that is the one which has been rising from the ashes.
Yeah.
So I literally rising from the ashes. So for every new restaurant that opens and coffee shop, Sanga and I are there. It was also the easiest city for me to get to. Recently, I've spent more time with communities in Tikrit. It's a fascinating city, really, really thriving. And I've loved the environmental movement that's there. There's a lot of women-led movements. This is a place which I've probably had the most picnics on the banks of the river. Baghdad, of course, for culture, for arts, for the majority of my friends, it's fabulous. And that's a city where you can go back 2 weeks later and it's changed again, you know, or they're digging up the road again, as they often do outside of your grandfather's coffee shop. And I go there especially to go to Rawan because, your family coffee shop is my favourite.
Thank you.
And then I haven't spent much time in Nasiriyah. I just haven't had as much time, and I would love to. But Basra, I have the softest spot for. I love that city, and they're incredibly generous people. They are so open-hearted. The light there is extraordinary. And they have a whole host of challenges that perhaps the other cities don't have, and are really navigating that. And, my friends that are there have very, especially with temperature, with all sorts of things. Like, for me, I think Basra will always be the one which I feel kind of closest to. And there's something about the light. There's something about the light in Basra. And you feel like you've made the journey to the end, and every time I get there I feel like I've got to the end of the country. And it's when that opens out onto the Shatt al-Arab and you start to head down to sort of Al-Fao, right out to the Gulf, it's pretty extraordinary.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I actually got goosebumps. I don't know, it's just wow, it's so nice to hear it from somebody else, and I know you're no longer an outsider, but like honestly, from someone who's doesn't have roots in Iraq, it's so nice to hear how you feel about every single part of Iraq that you've been. Because I've always found, I've only been once. I can't really talk much.
Yes, you can.
Haven't seen much, but I don't know. I found Baghdad to be magical for me, and I was it was just something else. I can't really tell you how I felt. But I can't wait, and we're doing this tour with
Yeah.
Emily being on tour.
Yeah.
Don't say it.
Really, if you tell me when you're going.
No, we are going out
going
soon.
October.
We're going out
Oh, are
soon.
you? Okay, perfect. So I'll be there.
Yeah, so there's two things that we're planning to do. So we've got this a tour trip. So what we've got is we've got a whole load of diaspora who've reached out to us through the podcast and said, you know what, we've never seen the historical sites. You know, we've never been a tourist in our own country. And we're like, we've never been tourists in our own country. So like, you know what?
So we have to do it.
It's something that, you know, start off at Basra, finish up in Erbil. You know,
But now that Emily said that, I feel like I want to finish off at Basra.
Ooh, that's an interesting one.
Yeah.
Start the other way.
I think it's best to start from north to
Erbil?
south.
Okay.
You follow the river.
Follow the river. I like that.
That's the flow.
Yeah.
It's you go down. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
It's
That's
It's
that-
also just easier to go, I find, from. And now, because the country's really opening up, you can get the federal visa on arrival in Erbil. So you can now, you don't need to have, before you had to fly in to Baghdad if you didn't have a passport.
they've changed it, unfortunately, again.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So you now have to apply for a visa here before you go.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's an e-visa. It's online, and then you just get your passport stamped when you go to the embassy. So where it was visa on arrival, they've changed it, unfortunately. So, you know, countries change, restrictions change, and it's just, you go with the flow.
We just go with the flow.
Yeah, literally go. It's the Iraqi way. It's just, and I was telling Neb about this. It's like, when we go there, you know how we traditionally have a plan? The plan has to be fluid.
Oh, yeah. But also you'll miss all the fun if you're rigid.
Yeah.
You know, the best moments I've had in the country is when you, especially if you're doing a tour, allow those few hours just to let things happen. Because there might be a wedding, there might be all sorts going on. And so, yeah, you need to allow room for that flow. Especially, you know, as a photographer, you know, the best photographs I've got are in the spaces in between. You know, you make a plan, God laughs at you, and off you go. So it's like, it's about those little moments where I've often gone off. And in fact, I could point to most of my photographs being a case of, and you speak to my colleagues, the writers, they often don't see me. They'll go, that's when all the pictures are when I go off for a moment.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then life happens.
How do you see things? Where's the clarity in your head? How does it, when you get that image, that beautiful image that you get?
Well, I mean, with the camera, you're provided with a frame.
Okay.
So it does condense the world down into this tiny, just through one of your eyes, you're able just to make sense of what's happening around you. So I find it to be very, you know, meditative and relaxing. It's something I enjoy doing. You'll very rarely see me stress taking pictures. I've always enjoyed it, but I've also been doing it for so long, since I was 14.
Of course.
I'm not sure. I had a conversation with a friend the other day. We were talking about how we see. We often don't talk about how we see the world. I see the world in colour. So even light, I see the colour in the light. And so I look at complementary colours. So nearly all my photographs are really about the interaction between different colours, which, you know, Iraq really provides that. There's richness. And it also provides a lot of challenges because it's quite unforgiving light. You know, lights are on and then lights are off. So, you know, you'll be, you know, there's no sort of
Warning.
There's no warning. Yeah, you go to India and it's sort of like, it's a very, very gentle, you know, light rises and you know, there's enough dust in the air, it really picks up. But I always know, if I see a photograph online, I know instantly where it was taken, because there's just a look of this that bright, white, pure kind of light that you see in the country, which I've enjoyed wielding and getting used to and respecting. I guess I can't disappear. I'm a foreigner, you know. I don't speak Arabic. I'm not a part of the community.
Speak Arabic.
Yeah. And so, you know, I'm always going to be an outsider, and I accept that.
No.
So I can't disappear. So I have to just involve myself in wherever I am. You know, I'm never going to be sort of flitting into the background. So what I tend to do is, participate. I participate, and then I disappear, because once you actually involve yourself with the family or the community, then you're able to photograph very freely. Always photograph with consent.
Iraqis are very big on that.
Yeah, it's really important, and maybe makes me a bit of a poor photojournalist, because actually you need to I've missed loads of opportunities, but I don't really consider them opportunities, because I think they would upset someone. Or there are consent forms for a lot of the pictures, but also there's just conversations, and I send the pictures to the people I photograph, stay in touch with them, and a lot of people who are included in the pictures, if it gets exhibited, or I had a friend who's like, her face went like sort of toured around Paris, and she was just like, this is so cool, and I loved. She's called Hajia, and she's from Tikrit, and I think she was pregnant at the time, and I was just sort of saying, like, darling, you're in Paris. Faces everywhere. And so it's I've really really enjoyed involving people in that, because that's their moment for their face to be seen, and their message and story. So I think I've missed a lot of moments that are happening, but I'm not comfortable doing it, so that's just it, and that's not going to change. When I've had to do more breaking news things, and there's maybe some hysteria or there's some chaos, of course, in those cases, I can't ask people for consent, but they're very conscious that I'm there, and they understand the capacity that I'm there. We're covering a breaking news story, so of course I'll be taking pictures, but I wouldn't want anyone to see a photograph that I had taken of them and to feel ashamed or uncomfortable or upset or feel like I'd taken from them. I think if we're looking at like neo-colonialism, the idea of a foreigner going into Iraq and taking, there has to be a symbiotic relationship, conversations, communications, and trying to give back to the community as much as possible. So I'm very conscious of those relationships. And
you normally go with the translator anyway, so you there's an introduction. It's not just
always.
It's not just that I've just turned up, if that makes sense. You introduce yourself to the Ashira Sheikh, or it's and then you do Emily.
There's obviously I'm Sanga always laughs. He says every assignment we always end up in a hospital, because I always feel like a lot of the story is in a hospital.
Okay.
And when we're doing certain pieces, that would be an area you need to communicate a lot of consent and things. So, and I work in incredibly sensitive environments with survivors of sexual violence, people who've been through insurmountable pain and suffering at times, but I try to meet them with a very, very peaceful demeanour, a sense of humour, actually. I think something I've learned is when we go into a space where there's heaviness and sadness, perhaps we feel inclined to meet people there, but actually what we can do is elevate the room a little bit and give a bit of relief, temporary relief. So that's kind of what I focus on a lot. And I love doing women's stories, and a lot of my images are of women. It takes longer conversations. It's a much more conservative society, especially in villages. But it's about finding a little way through that storytelling. So sometimes those conversations take hours with their parents to discuss how could she be photographed? How could we tell your daughter's story, but also protect her identity? We want her to be included. What capacity could we do this? So often I'll be taking the photographs, and the mother will be with me, and we'll review the picture. So we don't want someone hidden behind a curtain, but they're silhouetted, or there's a shadow, or there's a sense of her dignity without it being revealing. So I'm also working within certain restrictions which are just part of cultural practice, and it's very important to respect. So again, when you're not asking for consent, and again, I would say to anyone that's visiting the country, if you're photographing a young woman on the street and you haven't asked her, and that photograph goes out on social media, the repercussions for that are really quite severe and need to be considered. And so I would say to anyone, just ask for consent. People are really, really open, very friendly, and when they say no, it's for very good reasons. So we have to be very careful, I think, as visitors coming to the country, because at its worst, you know, it's definitely not safe for women just to be photographed and their picture to be all over social media. So I have to be very careful. So anything you see is very clearly signed off by family members and by her, and I'm often still in touch with them. And if that changes and they feel differently, then I would remove the photograph. Thankfully, that hasn't happened, but it's also very important that we remember that, you know, working in the country. Yeah.
So having constant communication with them is, I think, it's what you need.
Yeah.
To be able to know when it's the right time or not the right time to you know, publish, not to publish, because you're always in conversation with these people, so you know.
Yeah, and it's not worth it.
No.
No photograph is worth it. I've watched many photographs disappear, and I'm absolutely fine. You know, and I think, you know, we've got to be so conscious of our role as photographers. We don't know who sees what, you know, and we've got to be, you know, protecting the communities that we say that we care about. If we truly, truly care about these communities, they're the priority, and they are the first line that we, you know, they're the first people that we speak to about it. So that's always just been something which, having more time in the country, those are the things that I've learned, you know, of at the coalface, what could happen, what is the risk, and then just respecting that. Trouble is it's now gone to every other country I work in, and so that's not necessary outside. But I'd much rather be safety first, than cross those lines. Yeah.
Question: have you fallen in love with Iraq?
Yes. Yeah. I think you call it like an Iraqophile. Yeah. Yeah. It's actually it's been. I just adore the country. I wouldn't really be able to explain why. I really, really love the country, and I really love the people. And I think the most exciting prospect is it being like a rest of my life thing, is that I'm going to be watching this country change, and I change too. So, you know, the things that I was interested in at the beginning have changed. How I hold myself, how I communicate. Certainly doing something like this was not something I would have done for many, many years. I've been quite sort of hidden away and kind of nervous to speak about the country. And I adore it.
The passion of Iraq comes through in your voice.
And there's also a twinkle in your eyes when you talk about.
I have fun there. It's my happiest days. And when I go back, it's like I feel better. You know, I feel really, really connected. There's obvious challenges, but that's just life. But
there's challenges everywhere you
go.
To be honest,
There's work to do there. I like to get stuff done. I'm quite a sort of like off we go, and there's lots to do there. You know, there's lots of people that want to bring about change, and you know, I'm really delighted to be one of the mentors for Iraqi female photographers. It's a wonderful initiative that's supporting the extraordinary talent that exists across the country. And so, you know, my friend Ishtar and Furkan, they started this incredible initiative, and it's really taking off. So that's been something which I've sort of really jumped on board to support, and was teaching in Baghdad earlier, was it in the end of last year, which was fabulous. It was like, I don't know, maybe it was 30 of us, just women. Men were banned. And it was wonderful for us to all be kind of united. And so that's something which I'm involved with, which I'm going to work on more. And there's the Zagros Mountain Trail, which I co-founded with Laween Mohammed and Leon McCarran, which is a hiking trail which goes through the Kurdistan region of Iraq. Oh, wow. It's 230 kilometers long, and so we spent many, many years walking and thousands of kilometers to develop this hiking trail. And obviously my dream is that we would head south, especially because my first walking experience was in Hilla, and I think, you know, it would be amazing to develop trails there. So yeah, I mean, I just really love it.
Yes, it shows.
It really does come through.
Comes through, yeah.
And to be honest, that leads perfectly
to our last question.
Yeah.
And so what we tend to do is every guest we have, we ask them to ask the next guest, not knowing who they are, a question. And somebody's left you a question.
Oh, really? Okay.
Our last guests have left you a question. And the question was, do you remember?
I don't remember it.
What's the one thing about the Iraqi culture that you love the most?
Humor, dark sense of humor,
Really?
naughty humor. Yeah. And hospitality, of course. But I really want to
Stick
big
to
up the
that.
humor.
Yeah.
Because people don't, I don't feel like people outside the country know that. Yeah. Yeah, prevailing humor despite it all.
I like that. So what would you ask our next guest?
What I would ask the next guest is, oh gosh, oh God, oh sorry, I should have,
Don't worry, everyone
Everyone
says the
has
same
this.
thing.
And
You put me on the spot.
yeah, I'm this one I'm on the spot because I'm like, what would I want to be asked? What does Iraq have to offer that people might not know about? Like, what do you think? What would your sort of special place be that you think visitors should see?
I'm going to turn that right back on you. What's your opinion on that one then? That's your question right there, because obviously you've seen quite a lot of Iraq, so...
Yeah, there's quite a few spots. You need to go and have a picnic on one of the riverbanks, okay?
Okay.
That's you need to first go and do that. You need to go to the local butcher, buy a load of meat, okay? Find someone's uncle who's got a boat, okay? And go off with them on a boat, and they'll take you to the riverbank, sit down and listen to them, okay? Watch them smoke 80 cigarettes and just let them sing, tell stories, and then you want to be there until dusk when the frogs start sounding, and you need to watch the colours change.
Oh wow!
And I think if you do that on either one of the rivers, you've definitely got that experience.
I know we said it was the last question, but something just popped into my
Yeah,
mind,
go
talking
for it.
about scenery and sights. The graveyard in Najaf. We
Yeah.
haven't discussed that.
I was going to bring it up, but then I felt we were on sort of spirituality, and I was like, graveyard. Isn't it extraordinary? Isn't that the most extraordinary place? You can get a little tuk-tuk
Yes.
to take you to, obviously, your family graves, and they can find it. But there are some really interesting sites there. I've always been a little suspicious of jinn, and quite a few people in Najaf have told me about various people who've got jinn from going to like the depths of Wadi al-Salam. But it's the most extraordinary place, and I think,
Humbling.
yes, the weight of history, and sun-bleached pictures of martyrs, being washed away by that sun, and these, there was a lot that happened, particularly during the US invasion at that site. There's layers and layers of history. So if people do visit Najaf, I think it's very important that they take a drive and just feel the weight of that history and so many lives. There's an entire area just dedicated to people that died in the US invasion, multiple wars. Each area of that graveyard signifies like a time of immense suffering and upheaval, and
Some people don't know that it's the biggest graveyard
in the world. Yeah, and it's saying that it's filling up, basically. I don't really know how, because I feel like it could eternally expand.
It's expanding. I mean, there are so many. I mean, it's going to reach Karbala soon.
Yeah, so if people are listening to this, I would say go onto Google Earth and type in Najaf and look at what's surrounding that city, because you can see it sprawling out. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a sight.
It is. I've seen pictures of people taking photos from the rooftop.
Yeah.
And it's like endless. You just look out and it's just endless.
Yeah,
of green.
woven into the land. Yeah, and the rose water, bright pink
Mm.
rose water everywhere, and flags. Yeah, it's extraordinary.
The incense and the rose water. I want to end on a positive note. So how can we end this on a positive note where we're smiling with our Iraqi dark humour?
Yeah, but the whole point is that we're able to talk about life and death in the same breath and then go back to laughter. So this is the capacity of the Iraqi community, and so this is what I've learned to do is like suffering will always exist. There will always be difficulty and strife, and it's the humor and the community and hospitality that get us through it. And at this time in the world, where God knows where we're going, but it's not the right direction, we need to draw on those lessons, and this is what you've learned generationally. I'm first generation learning this, so I would say it's a very, very profound gift to have.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
for having me here.
Thank you for joining
for your
us.
time, for your positivity, for the love of Iraq. Today I've been living something through you, which it's so, it feels so different. Emily, I can't even, like I said earlier, I can't put it in words. But you've brought something here today, and I really, really thank you.
Well, I'm excited for you to visit your homeland.
Thank you.
It's not that long now,
No.
so
Through your work, I think I've visited more of Iraq. Well, no, I know I've visited more of Iraq than I've gone physically, and it's truly inspirational. And I think roots and narrative about our roots, and seeing the work that you've done and how you spoke so passionately about the artifacts that have been stolen and things going out into the world. And it shows there is true passion in everything that you're doing. So thank you for everything that you've done for Iraq.
Yeah.
Thank you for advertising us. Thank you for promoting us to the world. I really
Big
do
up Iraq.
appreciate it.
And keep going.
Absolutely keep going.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to see me as a granny there, still driving.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.